talk about right after the bumper. What's good people? Jeff Lightsy Jr. here with the Black Boss channel and Victory Formation. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff because we upload every single day. Now, Big 12 is coming apart. The Big 12 Conference. Anybody that follows college football knows that the Big 12 Conference seems to be coming apart and that the Power 5 conferences soon could be the Power 4, maybe even the Power 3, and have a just super conferences try to defect from the NCAA. Well, Deion Sanders might want a part of that with his Jackson State football program. Deion Sanders, after the announcement of Texas and Oklahoma leaving the Big 12 to head to the SEC, Deion Sanders went to Twitter and added the Big 12 Conference and said, hey, I would love to have a conversation with you. And then he added the Go JSU Tigers, the Jackson State football team official Twitter page. Now, this is interesting because it got a lot of people talking like, yo, could Jackson State, an HBCU, actually move over to a Power 5 or what's considered a Power 5 conference? Now, that's way ahead of ourselves. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Jackson State still, as of right now, they have the best recruiting in the SWAC, but they're not the best team. Alabama A&M are the spring 2021 football champions. Alcorn were the champions of the SWAC last season and look to come to reclaim that title. FAMU has come over and people think that they are the number one team in the SWAC. So Deion Sanders is far from a finished product down in Jackson State. He has recruited very well, but he will be starting a true freshman quarterback. He will be starting a true freshman, I think, left tackle. He will be starting a lot of guys who haven't played football in a long time. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. But talent-wise, we know that they have superior talent, at least according to the recruiting databases and all that stuff, than most of the other SWAC teams. So it's interesting because we know he has a ton of Power 5 transfers. Guys from Southern California, USC, South Carolina, Missouri, Florida, Georgia, you know what I mean? Louisville, like all of these different schools, they have all garnered and come together as a collective unit down in Jackson State. And so to see him reach out to the Big 12, I think it was just a PR stunt. Let's just be honest about it, because he nor his football team has done anything to garner the attention of the Big 12 quite yet, besides recruit. Now, we know that he can do that. He can recruit his tail off. He has brought such a collection of talent, the greatest collection of talent in the modern era at an HBCU as far as the stars and the rankings and stuff like that. Don't kill me. I know you guys have killed me in the comments before by saying, oh, this is the most talented team of SWAC. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying in the modern era, and since the recruiting rankings have been ranked, his team is at 54, I think, last check for the 2021 recruiting season. And that is the highest of a SWAC ever since the databases were created. So let's make that clear. I know Jackson State and a ton of the other HBCUs have had Hall of Fame players and guys that were at school at the same time. And there's no guarantee any of these guys on the current Jackson State roster will ever be Hall of Famers. So I just want to make that clear. But here's also why that would be huge. Why this is big in a couple of different ways. Right now, obviously, it probably is just a PR stunt. But moving an HBCU, specifically a Jackson State or FAMU or Alabama A&M, Alabama State or whatever, to a Power 5 conference is huge. And here's why. The Big 12 Conference made over $500 million in revenue last season. $500 million in revenue that was divided up among the teams. Just imagine if HBCUs got a piece of that. Just imagine if a Alabama A&M, if a Alcorn, if a FAMU, if a Jackson State or whatever got a piece of that. And it mainly comes from TV deals, from being put on ESPN, from having those college game day games, from doing all of that. All the money's in the TV. Let's be honest. All the money's in the TV because the TV gets to distribute it out. So you get both the money from the TV and you get the visuals because everybody everywhere gets a chance to see you play football. That is why it's such big money in those Power 5 conferences. Hell, that's why Texas and Oklahoma are leaving the Big 12 to go to the SEC, because the SEC not only gets all the money from the ESPN deal, but the SEC also has what's called the SEC network. So they get tons of money. This is how big of a deal Texas and Oklahoma going from the Big 12 over to the SEC. Texas and Oklahoma helped bring, like I just said, over 500, I think it was like $550 million to the Big 12 last season alone. The SEC made over $725 million. When they add Texas and Oklahoma, that number will go from 720, between 725 and 750 to $1.3 billion. That is why them changing conferences is so huge. So to go from between 725 and 750 to $1.3 billion, yeah, you're going to jump ship too, because you're trying to get another piece of that. You're trying to get a piece of that pie, piece of that cake. So that is why all the moving and shifting in the conferences will continue to happen. The NCAA will never be the same. The NCAA that me and you knew, that me and you hated for years, that me and you have come to hate, to not come to love, come to hate, will never be the same ever since this NIL and the Supreme Court finally said, y'all have been screwing over these athletes and it's time to get them their just due. That's never coming back. And so now what's going to happen is teams are going to form their own conferences or form their own thing, and I think break away from the NCAA, create their own bylaws, create their own rules. And this is a prime opportunity for the HBCU conferences, the SWAC conferences, to get in on that. But the only way they'll be able to do that is if they continue to recruit at a high level and show that they can be put on TV just as much and just as interesting and just as good at football games as teams in the Big 12 or the Pac-10 or the Pac-12 or the Big 10. I'm not going to say you're going to compete directly with some of those programs or some of those entities, but the SWAC, I believe, can be just as interesting of games. If you continue to bring in larger than life personalities and coaches, bring in recruits that can be tracked on recruiting basis, and continue to garner those type of, that type of generation, that type of excitement in a fan base. TSU doing it with Eddie Jones, bringing in Hugh Jackson, and I think they're going to continue to recruit the hell out of the state of Tennessee. They're going to be doing that. Deion Sanders, the way he's doing at Jackson State, bringing in the personalities that he is as players and as coaches. That is how you get in on the money, because that's what it's all about, guys. Let's not fool ourselves. We know it's about an education and somewhat for the students, but it's also about the money. It is also about the money. And the only way an ESPN or Fox Sports or whoever that owns these big television networks are going to put you on TV as a sporting fan or as a football team or as a football conference, if we're just talking about the SWAC in general, is if you can bring them dollars. If you can get eyeballs to the televisions and bring them dollars. That's the only way it's going to happen. So that's what I got to say. Like I said, Deion moving over to the Big 12 isn't realistic, I don't think. Jackson State and them moving over to the Big 12. But I believe getting a good TV deal for the SWAC is something that could take place, is something that could happen. And that's if you can bring in good money. Leave your thoughts in the chat. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Hey, and let them know if they want to come with us, man. We are willing to do some distribution deals with the SWAC, with Jackson State, with FAMU, with Alabama A&M. So hit me up directly. My Instagram is right there. And my name is Jeff Lightsy Jr. with the Black Boss Channel. Thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to follow me on Instagram at JLightsy7. I post content on there all the time. Thank you guys, and I will see you next time. Peace.